It's no secret that Hayao Miyazaki isn't the kind of person to hold back when he's talking about something he dislikes, and one thing the Studio Ghibli co-founder really can't stand is modern technology. He stated on numerous occasions that he rarely watches TV and that he doesn't even own a computer. To call him old school would be a massive understatement. This is a guy who still writes his letters by hand rather than sending emails. If you already knew this about him, then you probably weren't surprised to learn that Miyazaki has a pretty dim view when it comes to artificial intelligence. When the anime icon sat down with members of the Japanese telecommunications and media company Dwango to discuss an AI model that they had been working on, Chairman Nobuo Kawakami was stunned into near silence by Miyazaki's scathing response to their presentation. They had just shown him a zombie-like CGI model which, thanks to AI, had learned to use its head as an extra limb. Now, Kawakami was actually suggesting that it might be good for a horror video game, so it's not like he was expecting Miyazaki to use the thing in his next film, but he also wasn't expecting Miyazaki to come out with what is now an iconic line. After they wrapped the presentation up, Miyazaki said, "I strongly feel that this is an insult to life itself." It was a mic drop moment that was always bound to become a meme, but this brutal line actually came at the end of a much longer response in which Miyazaki explains in more detail why he was disgusted by what he'd just been shown. Here's what he actually said.
毎朝この頃会わないけど身体障害の友人がいるんですよ。でその人は歩いてくるんだけど片足はほとんど外側に曲がったままだから大変な苦労して歩いてくるんですよ。そのハイタッチするんだけど大変なんです。彼の筋肉がこわばってる手と僕の手でこうハイタッチするんだ。でその彼のことを思い出してね、僕はこれ面白いと思って見ることできないですよ。これを作る人たちは痛みとかそういうものについてね、何も考えないでやってるでしょ。極めて不愉快ですよね。そんなに気持ち悪いものをやりたいなら勝手にやってればいいだけで、僕はこれを自分たちの仕事をつなげたいとは全然思いません。
So, who is this friend that Miyazaki mentions? He was apparently talking about a man named Osamu Sagawa, who passed away in 2018 at the age of 86 following a long battle with Hansen's disease, otherwise known as leprosy. Sagawa was the head of the Residents Association at a place called Tama Zenshoen, a leprosy sanatorium in Tokyo that Miyazaki passes every day on his way to work at Studio Ghibli HQ. This century-old facility has a pretty dark past, with multiple stories of human rights abuses coming to light in recent years. Back when Ghibli was still establishing itself as the #1 animation studio in Japan, Miyazaki kept a good distance from the sanatorium on his daily commute. Like most people at the time, misunderstandings about Hansen's disease made him wary of the place and the people being treated there. Even after learning that it was curable, Miyazaki had to work up the courage to finally go in. When he gave a lecture at the National Hansen's Disease Museum in Western Tokyo many years later, he said, "I had no idea at the time about how I should behave when meeting people who were segregated there." Getting involved with Tama Zenshoen turned out to be a great decision by Miyazaki, because he made a lifelong friend in Sagawa and he saw firsthand the strength of the isolated patients living there. The Ghibli co-founder was inspired by the people he met at the sanatorium, and when he started working on Princess Mononoke, he decided that they should be represented in the film. That's why there's a group of heavily bandaged people under Lady Eboshi's care in Irontown. Their inclusion might seem a bit odd to those who aren't aware of this story, but at the end of the day, this is a film about groups who have been unfairly persecuted in Japan. The protagonist is a prince of the Emishi, an ancient tribal people from the Honshu region of Japan whose culture was slowly eroded during the 11th century. During his emotional lecture, Miyazaki said, "I thought it would be wrong to make a story about the old days that only featured samurai warriors and farmers, even though society included a wide variety of people. If you want to create a world featuring people with an obscure place in history, you have to come face to face with Hansen's disease, I thought. It would be nonsense otherwise." Miyazaki went on to reveal that he made regular visits to a memorial for the people who had passed away at the sanatorium when he was making Princess Mononoke, so they were on his mind a lot as he crafted what many people still consider to be his best film. He was clearly captivated by Sagawa, who had a very tough life. He was born in Korea and went by the name Kim Sang-kwon in his early years, but he relocated to Tokyo with his mother when he was young, and he spent his formative years in Japan. He was just 14 years old when he was diagnosed with leprosy and sent to his first institution. Sagawa was transferred to Tama Zenshuan in 1964 and would spend the remainder of his life there. One of the last people to visit him on his deathbed was none other than Hayao Miyazaki, who tearfully recounted their final meeting during his talk at the National Hansen's Disease Museum. He said, "I saw a part of the bone exposed on one of his fingers where the flesh had gone. I rubbed his hand and said, 'Thank you, Mr. Sagawa. My encounter with him has been important to me.'" Now, you may be wondering what Miyazaki actually did to help Sagawa and his fellow patients. Being immortalized in a movie that's loved all over the world is nice, but a man in his position should put his money where his mouth is, right? Well, that's exactly what he did. Miyazaki helped fund the preservation of the sanatorium's Forest of Human Rights, a grove of cherry blossom trees planted by patients after World War II, and he also spearheaded a movement to protect the sanatorium's historical buildings so that future generations could learn all about what happened there. Miyazaki was also instrumental in the opening of a daycare center on the grounds of the facility. Many patients had been denied the opportunity to have families of their own by harsh laws, and this was a way for them to be around children. What's more, Miyazaki regularly arranged for his films to be screened for residents at the sanatorium, and survivors have been invited to partake in Studio Ghibli tours. When Sagawa passed away, Miyazaki presented his wife with a tribute painting called The Light of Promine, which is the name of a game-changing drug that offered some hope to those with Hansen's disease. Painted by Studio Ghibli artist Yoshida Noboru at the request of Miyazaki, it shows Sagawa's hands cupping a ball of light, because Sagawa once told Miyazaki that the advent of promine was like a piercing beam of light that radiated from the sanatorium back to his hometown, reconnecting him with his family. In a move that clearly thrilled Miyazaki, Sagawa's wife donated the painting to the National Hansen's Disease Museum, which his late friend helped to create. Knowing all of this, it's easy to see why Miyazaki was so appalled by the AI character presented to him by Dwango. The fact that its appearance and unusual movements are supposed to horrify us reinforces the idea that people who are different should be feared. And it's this kind of thinking that led to the implementation of Japan's Leprosy Prevention Act. This law, which wasn't actually abolished until 1996, meant that anyone affected by Hansen's disease was isolated and forced to move into a sanatorium. Like Miyazaki's friend, survivor Shinji Nakao was just 14 when he was taken to a sanatorium on Nagashima Island. He said, "It was like entering a prison. We were referred to by our numbers, and of course we couldn't leave. I realized as soon as I set foot on Nagashima, my freedom had vanished." Sadly, traumatic experiences were common at these places. New arrivals were immediately stripped of their clothing and valuables and then photographed, before being made to bathe in a mixture of hot water and disinfectant. Approximately 10,000 leprosy patients were sterilized while confined in these isolated institutions, which they didn't receive compensation for until July 2024. Miyazaki will have learned all about this during his chats with Sagawa, so it's no wonder this is something he's so passionate about. That being said, there's more to Miyazaki's hatred of AI than this. His longtime friend and producer Toshio Suzuki was also in that infamous meeting, and he broke the awkward silence by asking the Dwango employees what they hoped to achieve. When one of them piped up and said that their goal was to create a machine that can draw as well as humans do, it was Miyazaki's turn to be stunned into silence. Reflecting on this later on, he said, That pretty much sums up Miyazaki's feelings on artificial intelligence. He was offended by Dwango's presentation on a personal level, but he also shares the opinion of many others in the entertainment industry when it comes to AI taking the place of human creators. It may not be the end of the world, but it's certainly the beginning of the end of creativity. No machine or program will ever be able to make a film as original and inspired as the ones Miyazaki has given us, which is all the more reason to treasure them. Thanks for watching everyone, and let me know what you think about Miyazaki putting Dwango on blast in the comments. Personally, I think he was well within his rights to say what he did, considering he's dedicated his life to making animated movies by hand. While Ghibli films have utilised CGI in certain scenes, the vast majority of what you see on screen was painstakingly created frame by frame, an approach that's sadly on course to become extinct in the coming decades. Cheers guys, I'll see you in the next one.